Hey gamers, and welcome back to another video. Recently I had the pleasure to play one of my most anticipated games of the year, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I am so excited for this game. I love Final Fantasy VII Remake, and while I did have some issues with it, I love what Remake brought to the table. The story, the characters, the world, and the combat were outstanding. So yeah, of course I'm going to be excited for the sequel. Because the game is set outside of Midgar, there's a bigger world for players to explore, which means that there will be more verticality than ever before. The demo does a great job at introducing new traversal mechanics, like vaulting, jumping, and climbing up walls with yellow paint. Wait, what?
Flappin' Flotsam, what's that?
There's yellow paint on my climbable surfaces? What is this, Resident Evil 4? What is this, Last of Us? This may be just the worst thing to have ever happened in video games. I cannot think of anything worse that has happened in this industry. Okay, but seriously, I can understand people's perspective on the issue of having blatantly obvious yellow paint on objects that you can interact with. It can break some of the immersion if you are constantly seeing ladders or boards with yellow paint all over them. I think the Horizon series does a decent job at minimizing the use of yellow on things you can climb, and I actually really like how they approach this idea. Forbidden West in particular lets you click a button that shows players where they can climb, which is super helpful. Not only is it helpful, but it also minimizes the amount of yellow paint that they have to do or white paint that they have to do to kind of show you and guide you where to climb and where you can climb. Instead, it resorts to a button, so if you want to climb without it, then you technically can. That said, it can be really subtle in Forbidden West, but they allow you to have control of when you want to see a more helpful hint as to where you're wanting to climb. That said, I personally don't mind the yellow paint that we see in video games, especially the yellow paint in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. There's actually a term for this idea called signposting. Basically, it's a way for developers to clearly indicate what the player is able to interact with. Now, like I said before, devs could make these a little more subtle, but at the end of the day, this feature is a positive one for gamers. It may be controversial to say this, but a lot of gamers need these subtle hints so that they don't get lost or confused. If the devs make it obvious that you can climb a certain structure with a color, then that's less time for players to be running around wondering where to go. The developers know how gamers are, and they have people testing their games, possibly saying, hey, where do I go here? Or hey, I don't think that people are going to be able to understand that they need to climb here to progress. Going back to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it is not just obvious, but it is blatantly obvious that this wall can be climbed. It really doesn't bother me that much personally. Could it be more subtle in how it shows players that they can interact with it? Yes, absolutely. Again, I think Horizons does a good job at allowing you to see where you can interact with a push of a button. Honestly, using the bench as a rest point takes me out of the immersion more so than the signpostings. Like, why are there so many benches that look almost the exact same in every area I go? This, to me, is where more people need to speak up. I do not like these benches at all. I would rather have like a holographic save point or rest point, kind of like how it was in the original Final Fantasy. Just having this holographic symbol just right there, I would rather that than these random benches everywhere. I don't know why it frustrates me, but it does to no end. Whew, okay. I may have gotten a little sidetracked, but back to the yellow paint, also known as signposting. I think it's good to give players a hint as to what they can interact with, even if that hint is very obvious. That said, I think we will continue to see signposting in future games because gamers need some kind of hint as to what they can interact with or climb on. Let's just hope that the industry is able to come up with more subtle signposting so that it's not as off-putting to some players. Okay, but that's enough about the color yellow. Join me next time when I dive into the color blue and why the heck Final Fantasy has these stupid blue arrows. But that's for next video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. God bless.